Chain of thought, also known as CoT prompting, is a way for a user to help guide a large language model to achieving a solution. At the simplest level, essentially what you can do is add an extra line at the very end of your prompt and say, show your steps, or how did you find this answer, or show your reasoning behind the solution. There's a lot of other ways that you could phrase this, but by adding this, it breaks down the question that you want to try to solve in multiple steps. In addition to this, you can also add in something called one-shot or few-shot prompting, where you give multiple examples while still adding on this conclusion. And we'll be covering all of this in the video. In fact, this is what we'll be covering in two different ways. One, we're going to be using ChatGPT, and the other, we're going to be using the OpenAI API. So that way, if you don't know how to code, there's a solution for you. And if you do know how to code, you can utilize both. And with both of these, I'm also going to be using different examples. So make sure to stay tuned for those sections. What we're going to be covering first, we're going to cover 0, 1, and few-shot CoT prompts. Then we're going to jump into automatic chain of thoughts, also known as Auto-CoT. And we're going to wrap up this video by taking a look at a few multimodal examples. Now, the code editor I'm going to be using is Google Colab, but feel free to use whatever you are familiar with. That being said, let's start taking a look at chain of thought prompts. Okay, so we're going to start with example number 1. I'm just going to copy and paste what I have. So, Them Crooked Vultures is playing a concert. 13 of the 15 songs played are from their self-titled album. How many songs were played that weren't on the album? Explain your answer step by step. And what makes this really a chain of thought prompt is this last sentence over here. Explain your answer step by step. You can use any phrase like that, like explain your reasoning, show how you achieved the solution, any verbiage kind of like that, where you're trying to get your model to show its reasoning behind an answer, not just print out an answer. Remember from all your math classes, the teachers would say, show your work. Well, this is what we're trying to get our prompt to do. Not our prompt, but our model do is show your work. Although, I don't know, I was the type that hated showing work. If I got the answer, I have the answer. I love doing mental math. With that being said, I'm going to feed this in over here and let's see what happens. So, and by the way, you don't need to type this out verbatimly. Make your own version of this. Also, I will have an article on my website so you can check that out. And if you are looking for any AI work for your company or for some like freelance work and stuff like that, make sure to hit me up. My email is down below in the description. And I have a contact form on my website, although my website is still under construction. Okay, so you can see over here, it says to determine how many songs were played that weren't on the self-titled album, define these steps, identify the total number of songs that were played in the concert. It says 15 in total. Identify the number of songs was self-titled, 13 to 15 songs. To calculate, right over here, number of songs on the album minus number of songs, right? 15 minus 13 equals 2. And then it also gives you that 2 solution right over there, which is correct. Now, let's go over how we can achieve this in Python. If you don't know how to code, no worries. I'm going to try to break it down as basic as possible. But if you want to fast forward and move into the next example where I just show GPT, go ahead. But I want to show it as a side-by-side comparison. So what I'm using over here is something called Google Colab. And this is going to compile all my Python code. So the first thing we're going to have to do is pip install. So we're going to pip install LangChain OpenAI and then LangChain OpenAI. Just because this isn't already installed on a fresh Google Colab notebook. If you're running this on like VS Code or something like that, if you already pip installed, you should be good to go. But I just put this here for the tutorial purposes because I don't know, sometimes people need to pip install on their computers. So just want to show that. And while that's installing over here, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. We have to bring in some imports. So I have 4 imports over here. So we're importing OpenAI, few-shot prompt template, which we'll use quite a bit, then also prompt template, and then in chat OpenAI. There may be a few others. I know I'm going to import in OS in a second. I'm just going to make this into a new cell, which is where all this code is. Each of these are a cell. So all I'm going to do is run this really quick. We should have no errors since we just pip installed everything, and awesome. Okay. And again, all this code will be on the website. So I'm going to be typing a lot of code, but since these are just stuff I'm importing in, there's not a big deal for that. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to import an OS. So import OS, and we're going to say os.environ like this. And then you're going to set up your environment variable. I'm going to call this OpenAI _API underscore key, all caps like that. And then you have to get your OpenAI API key. Now, I believe still to this day, when you get a fresh key, they give you like $5 worth of credits. I've only had to reload this once, and I've done a lot of tutorials here on the channel and some side projects. So it doesn't really cost you an arm and a leg, especially if you are using some older models. So grab your OpenAI API key, and then you can just literally grab it from their website and then put this over here. Now my key starts with SK and has a dash like this. I'm going to import in my key and then erase it, but just to show you essentially where you put the key, put it in between these double quotes. So I'm gonna do that and we will be back. All right, so really quick, before I go back into Colab, this is where you can get your API key. So just sign up. We're releasing an API for everyone. New AI models developed by OpenAI. So openai.com/index/OpenAI-API. I'll put that in the description. Just sign up for an account and follow through the steps. I've showed it in another video as well. So, okay, now we should be good to start working on our side of things. So let me move over to my example code. And here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to set up our model. So I'm going to say LLM equals chat OpenAI. And in here, I'm just going to use a model of GPT-3.5 Turbo. Maybe this is out of date when you watch it, but you can always change your model if you want, right? Pretty easy. We're just putting this in as a parameter over here. And I know there's newer models out there, but the job gets done with 3.5. And then I'm going to put temperature equals 0 on this as well. I don't want to have some interesting conversations. We'll keep it boring, and that's why we have a temperature of 0. So, okay, now what I'm going to do is set up a question. So question in here, and we're going to say question equals, and I'm just going to paste in what I've already prepped, and we're going to use this question a few times. We're going to use it with our first example, which is a 0-shot prompt. I should have probably talked about that when we're going to the ChatGPT side of things, but this is a 0-shot example of using a chain of thought prompt, right? So can you solve the following math question? Please show how you got the answer. Again, right? Please show how you got the answer. If we go back to what I used in ChatGPT over here, explain your answer step by step. And then I just put a basic math question or a basic math equation over here. Okay, let's run that, and then we'll create a new cell. And what we're going to say is print, and we're going to say LLM.invoke, and you can put your question in here. So put your question, and this question is going to be fed to this large language model that we built out by using Chat OpenAI. So I run this over here, and it says to solve the question 9x plus 62 equals 89. We isolate the variable, subtract 62 from each side of the equation, right? 9x equals 27. Next, divide both sides by 9 to solve for x. And then it's going to say x equals 3. Therefore, the solution to the equation is x equals 3. And you can also find a little bit more information over here, like tokens, right? Completion tokens 107, prompt tokens 32. And this only costs a total of 139 tokens, which is so cheap. So that is our 0-shot prompt example. Again, we provide, in a 0-shot side of things, we provide no examples. We just ask at the very end, like, show your work, or how did you get the answer, or something like that. And that's the 0. So now let's move into our 1-shot prompts. And I'm going to jump into ChatGPT. If you skipped from the first part of the ChatGPT side of things, I did want to say one quick thing. I didn't call this a 0-shot, and I apologize. Why this is a 0-shot chain of thought is we provided no examples. We just added a line at the very end that kind of said, explain your answer step by step. And on the Python side of things, right, I said, please show how you got the answer. A little bit different than explain your answer step by step, but just adding that helps for the 0-shot. So now I'm going to show you a 1-shot prompt example, and I'm just going to paste this in and we'll read through this, and I'm just going to run this over here. It's a little bit easier just because I have my camera above, so I don't want to stare down. It hurts my neck a little bit, but what we're going to say is a band is playing a concert with 20 songs. 14 of the songs are from the latest album. How many songs that weren't played from the latest album? So this is an example question I want to feed our model. And then it says the band played 20 songs in total. Out of these 14 songs from the latest album, to find how many songs were not from the latest album, we subtract the number of songs from the latest album from the total number of songs. 20 minus 14 equals 6. Therefore, 6 songs that played weren't from the latest album. So again, what I do on here, is I give a basic question and answer associated with this. And then I send them crooked vultures. Again, the same exact prompt that I used above over here. I use this down below. And the model now has the understanding of this is essentially what I want it to do, right? Find out, do some subtraction, and essentially show its work. And you can see down below, right? It's going to do the same exact thing. Number of songs on the album equals 2. Now, I will also say that ChatGPT does have context because I asked this question already here. So it has an understanding of what was asked earlier. And that's why it's essentially the same. Also now it can read from different chats that you've had previously. So with the memory that's associated with it. So just understand that this is why we're getting the same exact results. But now what we're going to do is jump into the coding side of things. I hope this makes sense why this is a one-shot prompt. We give one example of a question as well as the answer, and then we ask the question again. So on the Python side of things, there's a few different ways that we could approach this. So the first way is essentially we could just send our question again to our large language model. Other one is we can use a few-shot prompt template. So either way will work. Personally, I think you should go with the prompt template side of things for reusability. But again, if you want to just do this pretty quick, you can do that. So we'll go through each of these over here. So what I'm going to do first is set up our one-shot prompt. And let's do this. So what I'm going to say. So what I'm going to say is one-shot prompts. And we're going to say that equals, and I'm going to put 3 quotes over there. And I don't know why I'm getting Facebook notifications, but that's okay. Can you solve the following math question? Please show how you got the answer. 11x plus 15 equals 125. And then I have the answer here. Step 1, step 2, step 3. The final answer is 10. I showed my work, right? Verified. I put that at the very end. Then I'm asking, can you solve the following math question? Please show how you got the answer. 9x plus 62 equals 89. So same exact thing that I've asked before, right? Can you solve the following math question with our other Python code? But this time I've given the example, right? So I'm going to create a new line over here. And then what we're going to do is output equals lm invoke. Well, we can just print this out on this side of things. And that's what I'm going to do. And why I have that error right now is I didn't actually run the cell. And now we run the cell again. Remember, if you want to essentially send something to your large language model, you have to use invoke. So let's run that over here. And the reason why I have an error is this is our one-shot prompt, not our few-shot prompt. I will be jumping into few-shot in a second. But regardless, let's let this run. And it shows you step 1, subtract 62, right? Step 2, divide by 9. Step 3, the final answer is 3. And it says 9 times 3 plus 62 equals 89. And then it gives us the verified, which I put the verified right over there. So this is kind of your very quick way to having a one-shot prompt. You can also do the same thing with few-shot prompts. And let me show you also really quick. Oh, not really quick because it's a bit more work as we build out a proper one-shot prompt. So it's a proper one-shot prompt. This is the real way to build out your prompt template. But again, this worked as well, you guys saw. So what we're going to have to do first is set up an example. And so in here for the example, I'm saying question, can you solve the following math question? Please show you got your answer, right? Solution. And I go through the solution. So step 1, step 2, step 3, exact same thing I have over here. And I have curly braces in here. You can have multiple examples in this example over here. You'll see that with the few-shot prompt side of things. And also, by the way, if you want to learn a lot more about few, and also if you want to learn a lot more about 0, 1, and few-shot prompts, I have a full video dedicated on those. So make sure to check that out on the channel. All right, so we'll run this example over here. And then next thing we're going to do is set up an example prompt. So we have an example prompt over here. This is based off of a prompt template. So we have input variables. We have our question and solution. So if you go back over here, we have question and solution, right? And then template is Q for question, question over here, new line, answer being the solution. Again, prompt template. We're templatizing this. Okay, awesome. Then what I'm going to do is actually I need to change one thing over here, and I'm going to copy over this code. So what I have next is a one-shot prompt. It's going to be equal to a few-shot prompt template. Technically, if you're going to already do a one-shot prompt, you might as well do a few-shot prompt. But a lot of people like to see what a one-shot prompt is. So that's what I'm including in this video. So we're going to say our examples equals example, example prompt equals example prompt. Suffix, can you solve the following math question? Please show how you got the answer. Again, throwing in that context, how do you got the answer? Keep on trying to prompt our large language model to show its work. And then input variables is going to be our input over here. Okay. And next, what we're going to do is we're going to format our prompt so you can see what's going to be sent in over here. I just need to change this over to a one-shot prompt. So formatted prompt equals one-shot prompt format. And this is our input over here. The 9x plus 62 equals 89. Right. And then if we want to print out our formatted prompt, so print, we'll grab our formatted prompt, right? You can see what's being sent in. Essentially the same way over here, right? Exact same thing. But this time, instead of just putting all of the text on here, we created a prompt template, right? Few-shot prompt template, and then we formatted the prompt. The format side of things is just so you guys can see how nice this looks. Okay. Next thing we're going to have to do is invoke our LLM. So I'm just going to say print, and we're going to say LLM.invoke. And inside our parameter, we're going to pass through this formatted prompt. So let's pass that through and let this run. And you can see we have all of this down below. The answer is 3. Same exact stuff we've seen over and over again. Okay, so what I want to show you guys really quick is how we can make this a lot nicer. So what we're going to say is we're going to set our response this time. Response equal to this LM invoke. And then what we're going to do next is print our response dot content. And I'm not going to do this for everyone, but you can see subtract 62 from both sides, divide by 9, x equals 3, step 3, final answer, and it shows the work, right? 9 times 3 is plus 62 equals 9, verified. So if you want to have it nice and look pretty, that is what you're going to have to do. But essentially, you're getting the same answer over here, right? Just isn't pretty. And since we're going to go over a ton of examples, I'm not going to do this every single time. All right, now we're going to jump back into the ChatGPT side of things, and we're going to take a look at a few-shot prompt. So let me paste this over here. So what you'll notice this time is I added an additional example. You can keep on adding more examples as you want. And this one I put 2. So you have to have a minimum of 2 examples to be a few-shot prompt. So next example I put is a musician performed 25 songs during concert. 10 of these songs were from their debut album. How many songs were not from the debut album? Again, very similar, right? All these are very similar. They're just asking slightly different questions. It shows 25 minus 10 equals 15. Therefore, a paragraph just explaining it. And again, our model breaks it down step by step. And then number of songs or 2. We've gone over this 3 times, so I don't want to dwell on it too much. But now we can go on to the Python side of things. And we'll go over here and say Python example for a few-shot prompt. Now, what I will say is all of our code is essentially going to be the same for the few-shot prompt. There's going to be one major difference, though. So essentially, what we're going to do for examples this time is just place this. Right? So examples, right? 11x plus 15 equals 125. That's the example we've already covered, right? You see the curly brackets. Well, we put a comma here, and then we go to our next example with curly brackets again. So on your example side of things, right, you can continue to add as many examples as you want. In my few-shot prompt video, I think I showed 3 examples in one of my questions that I went over. But yeah, so that's how you can do that. And then you just go back to step by step, right? Make your example prompt. Then you call this a few-shot prompt template instead of, you call this a few-shot prompt instead of a one-shot prompt. Then you format again, print your formatted prompt if you want to see what it looks like, right? And that just essentially making this more beautiful so you can see what's being sent into our large language model. You invoke it, right? You send your prompt to your model through invoking. And then if you want to see it, very nice response.content. Since it's literally going to be the exact same thing all over again, I'm not going to go through that step by step and paste all of this code all over again. Just know examples if you want to send multiple, right? Curly brackets like this. And on the other side of things, right? I kind of skipped over it, but this over here where we just sent this text right into our model, you would just add your other example in on this side of things. And just to show you what that one looks like as well, I'm just going to copy this over, right? So all it is our few shot prompt, right? So that's our first one over here. And then our second one, can you solve the math question 4x minus 7 equals 21, add 7, 4x equals 28, divide by 4x equals 7. Final answer is 4. 4 times 7 is 28, minus 7 is 21, verified. And then I ask the question again, and I just send it to our model through invoking. And essentially, this is the same as before. We just throw in another example. Okay, so now what we're going to take a look at is automatic chain of thought, also known as Auto-CoT. I'm just going to paste in what I've already prepared, and we'll go through it. So let me just grab that and paste this over here and run it. So this is our first example. We're going to go one in Python as well, but essentially the question is the Tampa Bay Rays sell 15,000 tickets for a baseball game. They also sold 5,000 parking passes at $20. If the average ticket price is $40, how much ticket revenue did they bring in? So what we do with Auto-CoT is keep asking questions. So the first question I ask is what are the amount of tickets sold? Then I ask what is the average ticket price? Then I say what is the total ticket revenue? And I give an example of how to find it with some more context. And then I ask, can you grab the final result and write out a statement? The Rays brought in, 600,000 revenue and ticket sales. And then question, the Rays are in a playoff game. They sold 30,000 tickets. They also sold 20,000 revenue for merchandise. The average ticket for the game is $50. What was the ticket revenue that night? So it goes through our questions, right? Understands what's being asked to find it. Number of tickets sold 30,000, average ticket 50. Goes through the calculation 30,000 times 50 and $1.5 million. So Auto-CoT side of things, we break down our question that we ask, and we ask even more questions associated with whatever we send into our prompt, right? Ask for tickets sold, tickets price, then total revenue, and it goes through all these questions when trying to answer that side of things. So now let's take a look at how we can do this on the Python side of things. Okay, so on the Python side of things, let's go over here. See Auto-CoT example. I'm just gonna essentially grab what I have over here and there like this. So I'm gonna just rename this really quick, the Auto-CoT prompt like this. So I say, can you solve the following math question? Please show you got the answer 11x plus 15 equals 125. First, can you identify the equation used, right? Grab the equation. How can you isolate x? I say subtract 15 from each side. Can perform the operation, right? Performs operation. How can you get the x by itself? Divide by 11, can perform the operation, right? Probably put question marks at the very end, but it doesn't really matter. Can you perform the operation, right? Equals 10, is this the final answer? Check again to make sure. 11 times 10 plus 15, 125, confirmed, right? And then can you solve the following math question? Please show you got the final answer. 9x plus 62 equals 89. And again, like there's two ways you could do this. You could do this the lazy way, like what I'm going to do over here and say lm.invoke and just bring in this prompt over here, the Auto-CoT prompt. And it's not going to work because I didn't run the cell yet, right? And right, it's going to give us our answer of 3 again, right? 3 confirmed. And you see how that is built out over here. But what I would still recommend is you go back up and you follow our prompt examples, right? And this one is a one-shot prompt because we only gave it one example, right? We went through it in all these questions, but you can greatly expand this to a few-shot prompt if you really want to. And now what we're going to do is take a look at a multimodal example on ChatGPT. Okay, so for the multimodal ChatGPT example, I already prepared this text and image. So what I'm going to do first is paste this here. So I'm saying calculate the area and perimeter of the hexagon in the image. Each side has the same length. Please show the step-by-step process to solving this question. Now, the image I'm using is this right over here. And it's not let me copy it. So I'm just going to print screen this again and just get the image on here. Feel free to grab whatever hexagon or shape you want. I'm just going to paste that here. So the image is supplied. We also have the prompt over here, and I'm going to send it. So check it out. We have the image here. Calculate the area and perimeter, right? 4 centimeters. It grabbed it directly from this image. 4 times 6, we have 24. And then it gives you the area. And I always remember these had some weird area formulas. And let's see over there, 3 square root 3 over 2 times side length squared. Man, I can't remember. I had to memorize all these for math competitions back in the day. But regardless, area it says is 41.57, perimeter 24 centimeters. Area is 24 root 3, and which is 41.5 centimeters. And these calculations provide the perimeter and area of the given hexagon, regular hexagon, with a side length of 4 centimeters. I guess the other way you could just calculate this is each of these triangles all built out over here. Forget all these formulas to find, and I forget all these formulas based around this. It's like I said, it's been a while, but yeah, this is your multimodal example. Okay, so now let's use the OpenAI API example. So first thing we have to do is bring an image. I'm just going to bring in something I have on my computer, and it's just a slope. So, and just to show you how this looks, I'm going to bring in some code. You can see directly on here. So from ipython.display, import image, display audio markdown, import base64, image path, right? So all to do to get image path, these 3 dots, and then copy path. Then that's over here, display the image path like this. And this is the image. I'm going to close out of that X so you guys can see full screen what this image looks like. Awesome. And then the next side of things, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to set up our model. This time we're going to actually use a brand new model. So we're going to say model equals, and we use GPT-4o. So GPT-4o like that. And then we're going to redo our client. We're going to say client equals OpenAI API key like this equals os.environ get, and then we're going to grab our OpenAI underscore API key from earlier, and should be good. Run that. Awesome. So what we're going to have to do next is we're going to have to essentially build out our prompt. And so essentially what we're going to have to do next is encode our image. Now, I grabbed this code from the OpenAI cookbook and encode image path with open image path RB as image file, return base64. So let's run that first. And then we're going to do is base64 image, encode image with this image path. Okay, so now our image is encoded, right? So we have our image path over here, right? Our image path we set above, and we're passing that through to this function that we created of encode image. Next, what we're going to have to do is build out our prompt. So what we're going to do is response equals client chat completion create model. We set our model, which we use GPT-4o. Messages, right? You're a math assistant who can solve algebra problems. You show every step taken. And then over here, I'm going to provide you an image of a graph. Please break down the process of finding the slope. I should say slope, not slop. And confirm the answer. So again, multiple things. I'm trying to get this chain of thought working, not just give us the answer, right? Show every step taken, process of finding the slope, and confirm the answer. So twice, or 3 times, I should say, I have that. Type, we have image URL, pass in that, right? URL, this image base 64, temperature being 0, because I don't want anything weird. And I do have an error. OpenAI object has no attribute of chat. And I think I just have to bring in, I thought I had brought this in, but let me just double check. Hold on a second. Let me see if that works. All right, so literally I changed nothing. I just think I didn't run this over here. The model equals GPT 4.0 and client equals OpenAI API. I thought I ran the cell. Apparently I didn't. And now this has fully ran. And we're going to do one more thing to get this finally working. What we're going to do is print our response. So it's response.choices. 0 over here, dot message, dot content, like that. And to find the slope passing through 1331, we use the slope formula. Formula's over here. Now I calculate the difference, simplify the fractions. The slope of this is -1, which if you go back over here, right, if you go to 0.2, it would be 2, 2, and then 3, it's going to be 3, 1. So confirmed that slope is -1. But just to reiterate how we run this again, model GPT 4.0, set up our client with our API key. We set that earlier, right? Grab this encode image code from LangChain, or not LangChain, but from the OpenAI cookbook. Then we have our base64 image. We pass in the image path that we have right over here. Again, just upload your image that you want to test with. And then we have this over here, client.chat completions create. We set our model, right? Our model we set above. Then we have the messages, right? System and user. Text, image path, which you have over here, this base64 image, set temperature to 0, we don't want word results, and then just print out the response over here. And yeah, that's the multimodal example with 4.0. Hey, hope you guys enjoyed this chain of thoughts prompting video. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel. These videos take a bit of time to make and also produce. Now, with that being said, if you want to watch even more videos on the channel, I have a few linked down below in the description, and I have a playlist right over here, which I think you would enjoy.